Welcome to the Church of Obelisk. My name is Yon. Seems like these days everyone and their mother is making a tier list, so might as well join in. But what I'm going to do differently here from most other people who've made tier lists before is, first of all, I'm going to make actually 3 tier lists based on different types of maps. So we're going to make one for water, one for hybrids, and then one for pure land maps. And then also, I'm going to actually commit to, putting at least one civ in the bottom and top tier. No, we're not going to do these sort of tier lists without balls where like, oh no, civ is really bad, we're not going to put anything in D tier. No, screw that. Some civs are terrible, and I'm going to rate them accordingly. So without further ado, let's jump into the easiest part of the tier list, and that's going to be for pure water maps, or for maps that are primarily water. So that would be Boulder Bay. I would also call that as a water map. And here it's a very simple tier list. We're going to put French into S tier because of hulks, because they have a very strong economy, but mostly because hulks, and then everything else goes into the D tier. And if I had an F tier, I would put the other guys in the F tier, because French just completely dominates water maps. That's just, if you want to play water maps, just pick French, otherwise you're just going to have a terrible time. Now if it's Boulder Bay, you might argue that Ambassador, maybe like B or C tier, because you get that stronger fishing, so you get the stronger starts because you all have that 50% wood reduction on the dock cost, so you can start with the dock right away, and that will give you a bit faster fish boom, and you can then use that stronger economy to affect a land push, and you're just gonna have to accept that you're gonna lose water, but then you do like either a ram push in feudal age or like a ram springald push in the castle age, because with the Abbasids you get this very great bonus that you don't have to make a siege workshop. You can just make all the siege with your regular units, and you can just make springalds, you can make mangonels if you need those, but mostly it's going to be rams and springalds, and then you just make probably spearmen, maybe some archers, and you just push and just try to end the game. That's possible, but still, you just have a much better chance just playing French. And on the pure water maps, you're just always going to be at a huge disadvantage against French, because they just get their castle age ship in the feudal age on top of having a very solid economy, so yeah. But what about hybrid maps? And here I'm talking about maps where you have some water, but water is not the main thing. So you have either some sort of river, or you have these ponds, you have on Ancient Spires, for example. So these are maps where you can do some fishing, but mostly it's going to be about land, just powered up by a strong economy behind fishing. In hybrid maps, I would put Chinese in like C tier. Depends on which kind of hybrid map you're talking about. If it's a more defensive one, then Chinese are doing reasonably well. If it's something like Ancient Spires, where it's a bit more open, you have all these ponds that you want to contest, their Chinese, I think, would not do that well, but they do get like a faster working dock. They can make their docks faster, they make all the buildings faster, so Chinese have like a decent shot on these kinds of maps, but they're not that great. Just the problem with China is that they have no particularly strong early game options. They don't get any special units at the start, and like once you're in Imperial Age, you have like the strong siege composition. Chinese are great, but the getting there is the problem, and yeah, that's why they're only C tier. Abbasid, I'm gonna put those into A tier. They're actually really good on hybrid maps because you get these cheap docks, so you're just faster to fishing than any other civ. And then you have, strong siege options in the mid game with that free siege engineering and the ability to construct advanced siege units with your infantry, so very strong on hybrid maps. And you can even pick a Basset on a map like Black Forest, because you just get this fast fish boom, and then you can just do a ram push, and they're often just going to catch people off guard. And it's a great option if you don't really want to play out this long game on this honestly rather stupid map. So this is a way of just quickly getting the game over, and I think you're also going to have a decent amount of success there with Abbasids. Next, we have the English. I'm going to put them into B tier. They don't get any particular bonuses for fishing. They get 1 extra range on their aeroships, and their navy is like okay. Obviously, they're no French, but their navy is not that bad. But on hybrid maps, it's more going to be about the land, and English, of course, just have a very strong presence on land. The problem with English is that their only real eco bonus is that they get the stronger farms. So English gets farms 50% cheaper, and also farms near the mills gather faster. This 15% is not actually accurate. It ramps up with the ages. So this is a bonus that tends to kick in quite late, and the problem is on hybrid maps it kicks in even later because you get all that free food, not free food, but all that cheap food from your docks, from your fishing ships. So you're going to be farming even later, so this bonus is weaker on hybrid maps. But just the fact that you can get that council hall, which basically saves you 300 woods because you don't need to make 2 archery ranges, is quite a relevant eco bonus, because wood, of course, is going to be at a premium in a hybrid map because you want to be making those fishing ships and perhaps even other ships. So English, they're decent. They're in the middle of the road here on hybrid maps. Next, they're going to be the French. French just have a very strong, solid economy. You save some wood with their bonus for getting half off on your lumber camp, your mill, your mining camp, and you just make faster villages, which is always good bonus on any map. And what's worth noting is that this economic technology does not count for fishing ship upgrades. So these are the same costs as for everyone else if you're playing French. But you get just the big bonus of just having a very solid economy backed up by even more food from your fishing ships. And if you're on the same pond as someone else, you can of course win on water because you just have the hulks. And also sometimes it can just be good to just make hulks sort of defensively. Like on these river kind of maps, you can just defend the river crossing with a hulk. So that's a strong option if you're playing the French. And French just in general is just a strong civ, so they're doing pretty well on hybrid maps as well. Then we have the Holy Roman Empire. They just don't have anything particularly special on hybrid maps, and they're just in generally not that good. And the problem is that they're kind of bugged. The prelate doesn't work properly half the time. They'll just stop auto buffing your villagers. And then you also have this bug where if you research both of the upgrades for your men-at-arms, you're actually not getting as much damage as advertised. So if you have these two-handed and the mace upgrade, you'll actually only have +3 bonus damage against heavy units. That might be intentional, it might not, but that's how it works right now. So yeah, just not a great pick on the whole. They don't really have anything that's that makes them stand out. Like, yeah, they have strong eco, but it doesn't work as well as advertised, and they just lack the strong units. Their unique unit, the Landsknecht, is just kind of sucky because it just loses really hard against any sort of ranged units, and everyone is making ranged units pretty much, so Landsknechts need a major buff to be actually viable. So really you're not really working with very much, and even your men-at-arms are not really all that much better compared to like English or Delhi men-at-arms, so they just don't have very much going for them. But if it does have a lot going for them is the Mongols. They are definitely the strongest on hybrid maps. You have this very explosive start where you can make horsemen or spearmen right from the start. Obviously any civ can make spearmen at the start, except English you can make men-at-arms in Dark Age. But the big thing why the Mongol Dark Age is so strong is because of that Ovu or Uvu, or however you want to pronounce that. And that allows you to double make spears or double make horsemen with stone, that you basically get for free, and this just allows them to assert map control, and oftentimes enemy civs will just be too scarce to even dock against Mongols, and this allows you to get the free dock up, and just that early advantage is so huge. And then on top of that, Mongols in general are just very, very powerful on land maps, and so they're like the clear S-tier civilization here on these kinds of hybrid maps. Next you have the Rus, who in general are like a nice mid-tier civilization, but I don't like them too much in hybrid maps. The problem with Rus is that you tend to want to invest into early hunting cabin, which costs a lot of wood, and then you also want to make early scouts so that you need extra food compared to a regular hybrid map start. So typically you would get much later towards your dock, or you have to sacrifice the first hunting cabin, and then you're really getting much less bounty. So Rus start just doesn't really fit all that well into a hybrid map. And then in general, they're just sort of like a mid-tier civilization. They have some strong options. So they're not in D tier like the Holy Romans, but they're just kind of meh. Then we have the Delhi, who I'm not sure exactly whether we should put them in the B or C tier. I'm going to put them into like low B tier. They are a civ that has like no direct bonuses for water or fishing, but the fishing ships can shoot arrows, so they can defend themselves against any sort of raid. So you're not really afraid of, let's say, some Mongol spearmen or horsemen rushing down your dock. Like once your dock is up, it's going to stay up in the Dark Age at least, and these arrows from the fishing ships are not going to be able to defend them against like real warships, but it's kind of nice in the early game. And then you have like a decent economy as Delhi, and it sort of plays out similar to a land game, except you have more food. So they're like decent on water maps, and yeah, I would put them a bit below the English there, but there I think should do reasonably fine. And now for the main event for the pure land maps, which are probably going to be like the most popular maps, and probably going to be the most widely played in a competitive AoE 4, although of course it's too early to tell. So here, let's start with the Chinese once again, and I'm just going to plop them right into D tier. Problem with Chinese is that they just don't have very much going for them. They have great late game if you can get there, but the problem is actually getting there. They do have some strong defensive options, but you can't just like sit back and defend. Your opponent is just going to have a much stronger economy. They can just add additional TCs, and it's hard for Chinese to punish that sort of thing. And if that weren't enough, there's also the fact that you have this freaking dynasty button in the middle of the freaking screen all the time, constantly distracting you and constantly forcing you to work around that so you don't accidentally click on that useless button. I don't know who's responsible for putting that button there and making it permanent and not allowing you to turn it off, but that person should be fired. And for that alone, Chinese deserve to be in D tier. Next, we have the Abbasid dynasty. The Abbasids are a solid B tier civilization. They're kind of middle of the pack. They have a reasonable economy, like they have some eco bonuses from the House of Wisdom. Once you get to 10 buildings, you get this first tier of bonuses, and then in the mid game you're going to get to 30, and then eventually you're probably going to get to 60, but that's not really something you can rely on anytime soon. But yeah, you have a solid economy, you've got the berry bonus, that's also nice to have, and it's totally worth losing access to boars for these very delicious berries. And yeah, then the main reason to play Abbasid though is not the berry bonuses or anything like that, or the House of Wisdom. The main reason the Abbasids are strong is because they get siege engineering for free in the feudal age. They can make rams without having to make a blacksmith and having to get that upgrade, and also that allows them to make some sort of early ram pushes that can hit much earlier than you would see a ram push from something like English. But Then in H3, they get the ability to construct springles and mangonels with the infantry units, which is just amazing. The Mongols also have access to that, but it's an expensive technology for them that they have to research, whereas you just get that for free. And that allows them to do some very nice pushes in the mid game, or even if you're not going to be aggressive, even just going to play defensively. Just the ability to make springles, who are just such a strong unit right now, is incredibly powerful, and you can just play off that strong economy plus your springles that you make without having to make a siege workshop, so you can get more springles out more quickly. You can save wood on your siege buildings, and yeah, they're just a solid civ, but they don't have anything particularly exciting. Like the camel units, they're fine, but they're not that great. And some of their like auras and such seem to be a bit buggy right now, not working all as intended. But yeah, it's not really about the camels. It's really more about the siege and the solid economy. Next up, you have the English, a very solid, strong civilization. I'm going to put them in A tier. You might possibly even argue that you might put them in S tier, but I'm going to put them in A tier here. They have very strong defensive options. They especially have that network of castles influence bonus. So when you're around a town center or an outpost or a keep, you get also tower. That's the things you build onto stone walls. Then you get a 25% attack speed bonus. There's also an upgrade in Castle Age that ups that all the way to 50%. So that just helps you defend really well in combination with your Council Hall, which is a landmark that allows you to produce longbowmen at double the speed. So this saves you 300 wood at the start. So there's generally two ways of using this 300 wood savings with the English. One is to just go for an early second TC. You have these strong defenders advantage, and longbows are actually really good at defending because they have so much range. So if you have something like a French player, for example, running in with his Royal Knights, yeah, they're not going to take a huge amount of damage from longbows, but longbows have so much range that he can't just sort of run in and out, right? He's going to take so much damage if he does that, so he kind of has to commit to attacks. And there you have this these defensive bonuses of the English, and you're probably also going to need some sort of front line. Eventually you're going to need some sort of spearmen if you're playing as French, but in general you're just really good at absorbing harassment. The 2TC approach, very strong with the English. And another way of playing the English would be to just go for a strong ram push. So you have, of course, longbows, who are one of the strongest units in the feudal age. And you also have access to men-at-arms in feudal age, which is pretty amazing against many civs. There's just some civs that just don't have any real way of dealing with men-at-arms in the feudal age. And yeah, then you just make some rams and you can just go for pushes, and you can often get end games very quickly with that. So that's also a very powerful way of playing the English. I would say the English in a like straight up fight, they are the strongest civ in the feudal age. They lack the mobility of the French or even the Mongols, but just like pound for pound in a straight up fight, the English gonna win against any civ in the feudal age. So you can use that either to defend and get the strong economy up with 2TC boom, or you can use it to just go for an all-in push with rams, or even just go for like a not as all-in push, where you just still get eco upgrades behind that, and you just go for this push to pick up a bunch of villages, and you fall back and go up to third age. And then in the third age you can also get the King's Palace. If you've stayed in 1TC, it's very powerful. The landmark that acts as TC, so you instantly up at 2TC, and then you can be in a pretty good shape. Or if you're already in 2TC, you probably going to go up with the White Tower. This acts as a keep, and English keeps also allow you to produce almost any type of unit. And then later on, the English economy is going to sort of kick in when you get that these very cheap farms with that work faster as well. So Your economy is going to be pretty strong later on, but in the early game you're kind of lacking eco bonuses. Right, as long as you haven't started farming, you don't have any sort of eco bonuses. Except that the villages are a bit stronger, so you're a bit harder to raid and such. But if it's like a game where no one is really raiding, no villagers are dying, everyone's just sort of sitting back, then the English are eventually going to fall behind if you're in the same number of TCs. Next up, we have the French, who are obviously S tier. They're just so straightforward. They have all these strong eco bonuses. And the great thing about the French eco bonuses is that you don't have to do anything for them. Other civs also have eco bonuses. Like, for example, the Chinese, you have this one dynasty where you just able to produce villages much faster, which is great and all, but there's a huge investment there. With the French, you just get to produce your villages much faster right from the get-go. You don't need to do anything in particular, you just make villages, which you're already doing, and you get this huge bonus. You also get, eco tax cheaper, another nice bonus, resource drop of buildings are cheaper, and all this stuff is just automatic. You don't need to do anything for it. It's just included as the French. You also have some bonuses to traders, but those are not that hugely impactful. Then you get the free melee attack. Again, something you just need to make a blacksmith, and you can instantly get this upgrade. So the great thing about the French is that they're so straightforward. You don't need to do anything special. You just get handed all these bonuses without having to do any sort of work for them. And obviously you get the Royal Knight, a stronger version of the regular Knight, and regular Knight's already quite strong. You get the Chivalry upgrade, which allows them to heal up, and in Castle Age you get the Arbalétrier, who is a stronger version of the Crossbowmen. So just great units as the French. You have obviously the strongest navy, which on land is irrelevant, but you also have strong siege options. French is just like a very complete civ. They don't really have any glaring weaknesses, and that's why they're in a high tier here on any type of map. You can always pick the French. You're always going to have a good time. They're not always like favored necessarily, but they're always at least pretty strong. Then we have the Holy Roman Empire, who, similar to their hybrid map performance on land maps, they're not that good. I'm gonna maybe put them slightly above the Chinese here on a land map, but yeah, just they don't have anything really going for them. They have some bugs that are holding them back. Maybe those bugs get fixed. They might move up to like C tier or something. But just in general, then they don't have anything in particular going for them. Then we get to the Mongols, who are also going to be S tier, and I'm even going to place them here ahead of the French. This is a bit skill dependent, so if you're a lower level player, Mongols are probably a bit weaker than the French. If you're like a beginner tier, maybe when we drop them behind the English. But if you know what you're doing with the Mongols, they're incredibly powerful. They have these very strong, aggressive options right from the start. You can do some sort of Dark Age aggression with horsemen or scouts, or you can just do it with spearmen, because you have that huge production capacity with the OVU, and then you have a very solid economy behind that. You have the Yam network, you have the deer stones, giving you your villagers just more efficiency, making your cavalry units faster as well, and so on. The Mongols obviously lack defensive options, but their offensive options are so strong that they can dictate the pace of the game usually. And then you also have these very powerful upgrades. You get this blacksmith near Uvu, and you get these double upgrades, which is something that other civs just can't really match. And you get these bonuses from your Khan with all these arrows, especially the extra attack speed is incredibly powerful in the feudal age. So the civ can do like aggressive feudal age plays. They can even be aggressive in the Dark Age, as I said, but you can also be perfect competitive just going in the Castle Age or even Imperial Age. And the lack of keeps is going to hold you back a little bit in the late game, but even in the late game, I think Mongols do quite well, and they're just the strongest civ in the game right now on open land maps in particular, and also of course on hybrid maps. Then we have the Rus, who I'm gonna place here into B tier. In the beginning, a lot of people would have thought this civ was really good, and maybe it's like an A tier civ, maybe even S tier civ, some people said. But if we look at their performance at the Genesis tournament, they really underperformed. And Roost is a civ that, if the early game goes really well, you can look amazing. If you get early 400, 500 bounty, you're just set. But if your opponent sort of knows what they're doing, they can deny quite a bit of bounty, and they also civ that kind of tends to struggle against the other top civs. Like if playing as French, for example, you also want to go for knights as Rus, but your knights are just weaker than their knights. And then your eco bonuses sort of rely on you spreading out across the map of hunting and placing these hunting cabins and so on. But as French player, you can just shut that down because you have this mobile knight army, and it's being hard for the Rus player to compete with that. And the French economy can be a lot more compact and therefore harder to harass. So the French in that matchup are just going to have the advantage. Mongols also, I think, match up quite well against the Rus. You can get like an early stable next to an Ubu and just make 2 extra scouts, and you can really contest the Rus scouts, and that means that the Rus player is going to have less bounty and it's going to have a slower game overall. And yeah, that's why they're only here in B tier. But of course they still have strong options, they still have good matchups. They have very solid economy, they have strong cavalry, they have incredibly powerful late game. Like on land map, I would say they're probably the strongest late game civ, because they have the Streltsy, which is amazing, plus strong siege options. So then you also have the cavalry archers, who are a really strong option. They're actually a trash unit, they cost no gold, it's only food and wood, so we can just make these incredibly strong range composition with these mounted horsemen and your Streltsies plus siege to back it up, and you probably have the strongest late game in this civ right here. And then finally, for our last civ, we're going to place it into the empty tier. Delhi is not necessarily a strong civ, but it has some options. I would say they're a bit better than the Holy Roman Empire and the Chinese. And generally, what you want to go for as Delhi is not elephants, because elephants just come out a bit too slow and they're a bit too expensive. So it seems to be the way to go as Delhi, at least based on what we know so far, which of course is not very much. This game has only been out for less than 3 weeks. But the approach that seems to be working the best is to do a double mosque opening. This allows you to make more scholars and give you a huge discount on the research time. So you get these free upgrades pumping out faster, and then you want to go ahead and get the sanctity upgrade, and this allows scholars to capture sacred sites before the castle age. So the idea here is to, in the feudal age, make an army consisting mostly of spearmen, archers, and some scholars in there. And this is going to allow you to claim those sacred sites, and you get 200 gold per minute with this upgrade. Regular civs get 100 gold per minute from a sacred site, and 200 GPM is roughly equivalent to 5 villages on gold without upgrades. So that is quite a boost to your economy. If you get 2 sacred sites, that's roughly 10 free villages you get basically, and you can also get some relics. Each relic also another 100 gold per minute. So that allows you to have a strong economy even though you only 1 TC. And then the idea is to just get up to the castle age reasonably fast, and then do a push from there, and make your men at arms, and you have this +3 damage upgrade as well with the Delhi. So you get like men at arms plus like archers plus maybe some crossbow mixed in, plus your Springolds. Springolds, very powerful mid-game unit. Pretty much every civ is making Springolds. And so you have this men-at-arms, archer, Springold composition, and you push with that and try to kill your opponent before their like 2TC economy really kicks in. Because these sacred sites and so on are nice, but if someone is on 2TC and if they have a strong economic civ like the French or the Mongols, their economy is eventually going to eclipse yours. But if you can just go for this push in the early castle age, maybe you can just end the game and claim the victory. So that's the approach that you should probably take if you're playing Delhi, but it's all rather hard to make work, so that's why they're only in C tier. And yeah, maybe if it gets figured out, maybe some builds get optimized, maybe they can move up higher there. But for now, I would say they're a bit below the Abbasis and the Rus. So this is my tier list for the land maps. Let me know in the comment section if you disagree with any of these rankings, if you put any civs higher or lower than that. And also check out these other AoE 4 videos on my channel. And Obelisk Filling, I'll see you there.